Good morning, Gamecock fans. JC Shurburtt here with coffee. Hope you all are doing well. Hope you're having a wonderful Tuesday. Tuesday's just one of those days, man. It used to be significant at times. Gosh, my wife and I used to go play bingo, competitive bingo. Is there such a thing as competitive bingo? But we used to go play bingo on Tuesday nights. Cut that out because Wednesdays ended up being a challenge, especially Wednesday mornings. Uh, Other than that, gosh, I guess I had junior high basketball games on Tuesday nights. But I don't know, kind of a insignificant day, don't you think? What goes on a Tuesday? You got Monday night football. Obviously, colleges love playing national championship games late at night on Mondays. Wednesdays church. When I was a kid, at least church. It's hump day. Thursdays are a party day in college. Wednesdays were karaoke days for me back in college as well. And then we know Friday, Saturday, and Sunday have significance. But is Tuesday the most insignificant day of the week? I don't know. Anyway, I'm here on a Tuesday, February 4th, the year of our Lord 2025. This is episode 17 of Coffee, and I appreciate each and every one of you listening. I want to throw a shout out to one of our sponsors, Tony Pope State Farm Insurance. Let's say you live in North Carolina or Georgia, and you want to support Gamecock businesses that support the Gamecocks, and you need insurance, good quality State Farm insurance at a fair price, with great bundle packages. And they also have other products like financial. Go to tonypope.com. It's money well spent because, number one, he's been my guy for years. Whenever I'm in a state that I can use him for everything, I will. But I use him for life insurance and things like that. Had some car issues. He helped me out with it. But you'll see his name on the scoreboard at Founders Park from time to time as a sponsor. Also a big contributor to NIL as well. So your dollars kind of trickle down if you check out Tony Pope, tonypope.com. All right, so what we were going to talk about today is running backs. I think yesterday, going through and sort of breaking down the other edge position and talking about the candidates. It's a good week because not only is it Tuesday, it's a slow week. Not that the men's basketball team has been, I guess, killing it numbers wise and interest wise this year, but people watch the games. Obviously, they react to them. But they're off this week until the weekend, and they're 0-9 in the league. There's some women's action. Baseball opening day is next weekend. The football staff just to kind of give you an idea of where they're at. They're off the road recruiting after an open period. So, it's kind of time to sit back and take some stock, all that. And I've been going through all the players, in that 2024 class. And yesterday, when we were going through the edge position, I did talk about a couple of players there, Wendell Gregory specifically, in that class. And we're going to get to two of them today in our running backs discussion. And running back's a very important spot. Obviously, there is a hole at running back left by the departed Rocket Sanders, who rushed for 891 yards this year. Really had some terrific moments for the Gamecocks. It was a good rebound year for him. Didn't quite get to the 1,400 yards or whatever he got to at Arkansas in 2022, but it's a different offense. And most of the time, when you have a quarterback that's a kind of a running quarterback, unless you're just like Rich Rod at West Virginia with Pat White and those backs, or Dak Prescott when he was at Mississippi State, you're not going to have your backs necessarily. It takes the numbers away, in other words, because only so many rushing attempts in a game. And if your quarterback's carrying it 14, 15 times, either officially with called plays or on scramble plays and stuff, it cuts down everybody else's stats because not everybody has a bunch of quarterback runs, and there's only so many plays. So I thought Rocket had a good year. Had he not gotten hurt in the Akron game, 109 yards away from 1,000. Go back through the history of Carolina football. There's not that many 1,000-yard rushers, and it's harder and harder for that to be the case. I think the last two, our last three were Marcus Lattimore in 2010, Mike Davis in 2013, and then Kevin Harris during the pandemic year. Obviously, rushed for a bunch of yards over 1,000, but it's been few and far between. And a lot of it since Lattimore has been more because it's by committee. I mean, Davis and Brandon Wilds back in the day were kind of a duo during the Muschamp era. Nobody could stay healthy at that spot, but you're constantly after 2016 rotating Dowdle, Tyson Williams, and AJ Turner would come in, Mondenson would come in, and constant rotation there. And then Marshawn Lloyd probably in 2022 was on his way and got hurt. So injuries, my point is there's a lot of reasons why there haven't been very many to get to 1,000, but Rocket almost did. And he had some very big moments and catching passes out of the backfield and scoring. I thought, Texas A&M, Vandy back to back was his best stretch. But he made plays and a freaky, different kind of back at 230 pounds with light feet, good speed, but also could run between the tackles and also had soft hands out of the backfield. Gamecock fans will never forget the shuffle pass. It's shuffle, by the way, against Missouri to win the game. That may be one of the most iconic plays in the history of Carolina football, and will live forever. I think. I mean, I don't know how anybody could ever forget that. With the way that win kind of went down with Missouri and Eli Drinkwitz in town and a lot on the line, and there we go. Rocket ran over a bunch of players. The most impressive, I think, touchdown run that he made was kind of down toward the same end zone against LSU, where he ran up the middle. There wasn't that much room. He just kind of bowled over, sidestepped, got in. I mean, just some really good moments for him this year. And obviously when he had blocking, as A&M found out, you don't catch him. And LSU found out too. Very good speed, and just really happy for him that he had a great last year at South Carolina, and I think he's going to get drafted. And so Rocket is out. So 1 year and done. Certainly was a big part of it, but you have to replace him. So how are the Gamecocks going to replace Rocket Sanders? And there's 4 options. And you know what, guys and gals? I would never, I don't know that there's even a favorite in my mind. Like I said yesterday when I was talking about Brian Thomas Jr. walking out there first, I believe Oscar Adaway, the first player I'm going to talk about, and also a 2024 edition, I think he'll walk out first. And here's why. He was number 2 on the team last year. As far as the depth chart goes, he was Rocket's backup. The idea was to redshirt Fuller and Howell, the 2 incoming players. Howell played as a true freshman at South Carolina State, so sort of like Big Tree, played in 2023, redshirted last year on the 25. Because we've talked about Big Tree before. I think we talked about him on the show and the offensive line. Kind of similar thing with Howell, and then Fuller was an incoming true freshman, and he got to redshirt. And I think that's smart because, if you've got Rocket Sanders, you're going to use Rocket Sanders. He's, and he didn't get crazy. I mean, they did a good job. Marquel Blackwell and the offensive staff did a good job of not overloading him, but he played a lot of plays. And then Oscar Adaway, an older player that came in from North Texas. I think he'd been in college about 4 or 5 years. He comes in and spelled, as a backup Rocket during games and did some good things. So Oscar Adaway, I thought, was one of those guys that got better as the season went on. There were some contests where he didn't get a lot of carries just because Rocket was carrying the football. Some he did. I think if you're looking for a moment with Adaway where the light sort of came on, or where you kind of felt like, well, this guy's going to be pretty good and contribute, it was probably Alabama. I know he scored his first touchdown against Akron, but it's Akron. This was at Alabama. He caught some passes out of the backfield on that long drive. one of the best drives of the year in the second half, where the Gamecocks marched down the field and took the lead at Bryant Denny. I thought that was really good. I thought catching the ball out of the backfield was kind of something he did a lot of this year in a good way, and probably wasn't talked about enough. Probably wasn't a talking point that we got into a whole lot. But just like Rocket, he's got good hands out of the backfield, kind of knows where to go, and pretty good with yards after the catch. So season moves on forward and all that good stuff. And Sanders has his outbursts. Nobody ran the ball at Oklahoma well. And then A&M happened. Rocket was really good. Vanderbilt, I mean, he was probably the player of the game up there on offense. And then they come back to Missouri. He has the winning touchdown, Sanders does. Move on to Wofford and then Clemson. Now, the Clemson game, I felt, is where Oscar Adaway kind of started coming into his own. And the last two games, Clemson and Illinois, Adaway, I thought, played his best football all the way around. Now, weren't a lot of carries against Clemson, and Clemson did a good job of slowing Rocket. I don't think I wouldn't say they shut him down, but they slowed him. He had some good runs against the Tigers. But Adaway, like a little dive play up the middle, he was gashing Clemson. And it looked like he had this kind of an extra gear, running with more confidence, whatever. 6 carries for 41 yards. Rocket opts out of the bowl game, and rightfully so. With a running back with an injury history that's had a good year, 9 times out of 10, they're going to opt out of the bowl. It's just the nature of that position value, the beating those guys take. So Oscar gets he gets to start. 14 carries, 69 yards, probably one of the better plays of the game, a 36-yard touchdown run. Also caught 7 passes, which is significant. They kind of kept hitting him out in the flat or whatever. Don't know if I would say that was uber effective in that game, but he caught 7 passes. And so you add it all up, that's 20 carries for 111 yards and a TD in his last 2 games, which was more than he had gotten, previously. Older player from Texas Tech, leader on the team, was recently named to the SEC Leadership Council, is a guy they love, And frankly, I think the world of Oscar Adaway, and also his dad listens to our show. So good family. I mean, I don't know does it make you a good family, JC, if they listen to your show, you arrogant prick. I just kind of realized it hit me all of a sudden how arrogant that sounded. Nah, I mean, I've interacted with him before. How about that? And good person, seems to be nice, supportive of the team, all that good stuff. Now, of course, that doesn't mean you should be starting at running back if you're a good dude. Brian Maddox, when he was here during the Spur era, really good dude. Wasn't starting over Marcus Lattimore, another good dude, probably my favorite, one of my favorites of all time. Marcus. But, so it doesn't, you know what I'm saying? I mean, I kind of got sidetracked there. So in the comments yesterday, by the way, people are like, well, you must have been busy because you didn't get sidetracked at all or ramble at all. Not that I mind that. And I'm like, well, yesterday I was locked in. We were talking D-line. Anyway, running back. So I would venture to say Adaway would be the guy that goes out there first. I don't know that I would predict any of these guys would be the starter, but he'll go out there first and he'll be given the opportunity to hold on to the job. And what does he bring to the table? He's got a good burst. I think they found something a little bit with that dive play at Clemson or whatever you'd call it, right up the gut. He seemed to hit the hole hard there. And then, of course, his hands, I think he's a decent blocker. Obviously, I think all the running backs probably need to get a little bit better. Outside of Rocket Sanders last year, at pass blocking, that's been a constant theme. But, is Adaway, could he be the starting running back? Yes. Would I put money on it? No. But he'll go out there and compete in the spring. And there's just a lot. These 4 guys are all, in my mind, capable. And, I'm probably going to rank them in order after the spring game or after I know more. I don't know that it's fair right now here on February 4th to rank them in order. But I think they're all kind of close. But Adaway, that's your guy that's going to go out there first. And, I've told you the strengths and some things he probably needs to work on, just more production. I mean, more games like Clemson and to a certain extent Illinois, less games where 8 carries for 11 yards. Some of that obviously has to do with blocking. You got to have holes, folks. Really, these guys need room to run. But, and I think part of that, I think he got more and more comfortable as the season went on. And so he needs to carry that over, obviously. The number 2 guy I'm going to talk about is out of the transfer portal. We've talked to him or talked about him here. Rasul Faison. Gosh, running style wise reminds me a bit of Corey Boyd from back in the day. Not as violently physical as Corey. I don't know, gosh, we're going on 21 years since this happened. It'll be 22 in the fall. Goodness gracious. In 03 against Virginia, Virginia came to town. South Carolina had lost up there the year before. Virginia came in week 2. Matt Schwab was hurt for them. So they started a backup quarterback. And that's the game. If you ever hear Dave Neal call the Troy Williams 99 yards from Dondrell Pinkins, that happened in that game. Corey Boyd ran over a Virginia player and I think put him out for a long time. I mean, it was a collision, and that was Corey Boyd. I don't see that type of physicality from Faison on film. But what I do see is his running style, where Corey Corey had really good vision and could kind of dart in, dart out. I mean, he was a bit of a slasher, I would say. That's Faison. Faison's got good acceleration. I think obviously he's productive. He's been productive. Pennsylvania native, went to junior college in Utah, ended up at Utah State. Now he's in the SEC. Gamecocks won a pretty good recruiting battle with him, with Florida State and others. A lot of interest in Faison. I think Alabama was interested in him as well. So that was a good portal pickup. And I think that whereas last year you knew, if healthy, Rocket Sanders is your starting running back, there's no question, right? This is not a Rocket 2.0. I'll just tell you that right now. Faison could be the starter. He could be the guy. He's good enough to be the guy. But it's not like Rocket, where you just knew he was going to be the starting running back. No question. There was never any question once he got healthy. Rocket was the guy. Faison, not in that category, even though, like Rocket, he came from the transfer portal. But does he have a shot? Yes. Do I think he can be effective in the Southeastern Conference? Yes. Would I predict he'd rush for 1,000 yards this coming year? Not right now. Probably not. But when you say things like he won't rush for 1,000 yards on February 4th, that's when you end up on Cold Takes Exposed. I'm not tweeting that, though. But certainly, really good player. Like I said, the thing I like about him the most is his production. What does he need to work on? What are his keys? I mean, I don't know, call them weaknesses or whatever. It's going to be just transitioning to this type of football, learning the offense, learning where to go, getting comfortable. Like I mentioned, Adaway, I felt got comfortable down the stretch last year in the last 2 games. Same with Faison, good passing game, run, pass blocking, all that. But this is a guy that's played a ton of football. He's older, just like Adaway coming in. And I've got high hopes that he can really help the Gamecocks this year. Now, the other 2, I'm extremely excited about. I have been since South Carolina got him. And Jawarn Howell is a player that I think early on, one of the early episodes of Coffee, he kind of got his own show, got his own spotlight, right? And I mean, like I said, another back in the day guy from the early 2000s, Derek Watson's the comparison there. Thought when he got a chance, he looked good running the ball. You see the acceleration, you see the size at 6'1", 220. and the acceleration. Again, I'm flabbergasted as to why no one recruited him out of Mooresville, North Carolina, except SC State. I had an SC State fan remind me of that. JC, you say that nobody found him, but people ignored him. Well, somebody did. SC State did. They did, but they also got him late. And hats off to Buddy Pugh and his staff. And then the SC State fan accused South Carolina of buying him from him. That's not exactly how that went down. There were other schools trying to buy him. And if he was going to get in the transfer portal anyway, let's just say there's friendly relationships with the South Carolina State staff and the South Carolina staff. So I don't know that you can blame South Carolina for getting in there and trying to get the guy. I don't think that happened. So, but he did end up in South Carolina. And, I know if you're an SC State fan, that's unfortunate, man. I pull for SC State every weekend. I love SC State. So, but thank you, from Gamecock perspective, that he's a pretty good player. And will be really good. Now, this is a guy that odds wise, if I had to just give odds on starting running back, I would probably put him number one. They'd be close. It'd be close, and I may be wrong, and I'm not predicting that right now. Like I said, I'm gonna put him in order. But if I had to do odds, just reading the tea leaves, picking up intel, Howell could be the starter next year. Could. He's gonna have to earn it, just like all these guys. So finally, the next guy, like Wendell Gregory at edge, and by the way, I know Howell fumbled in the bowl game. I know this, but that happens. I've said it time and time again. Rocket Sanders fumbled in the Clemson game. Marcus Lattimore fumbled. Everybody fumbled. It's not. It's something you don't want to have a lot of it. If you do it too much, you're not going to play. But just happens. Fumbles happen. Anyway, so I don't hold that against him. It stunk because of how that game went down. 17 points. You think, well, you don't turn it over, maybe something happens. But anyway, he had 6 carries for 32 in the bowl against Illinois, and kind of with Rocket gone, moved up into that second spot behind Adaway. So I just, I think I don't know. I think highly of him, and I think, having spent the red shirt year, and I'm talking about Howell, by the way. I know, maybe get on to Matt Fuller. Having spent that year redshirting and easing his way in is going to help him. Be ready to go get an increased carry load in 2025. Mooresville, North Carolina. Jawarn Howell. Love the way he plays football. Probably because I'm getting old and I'm nostalgic now for those days in the early 2000s. And I remember Derek Watson was just, it was unfortunate that he kind of got derailed, special player talent wise. I mean, just big old back, but fast and spin move. I mean, you can go pull up some old videos. He played primarily 99, 02, and 2000, played a little in that's 01 was when things kind of got off the rails a little bit during the Lou Holtz era. Palmetto High School, Williamston, South Carolina. Shout out to Tiffany, who listens to our shows and is a member of thebigspur.com, who is from Williamston, South Carolina. Okay, so love Howell. Probably would be the one I would put my money on. Let's put it that way, to win the job. But I say that based on my personal opinion, not on any kind of inside intel. Because like I said, inside, I think Adaway will be the first guy to walk out in the spring. All right, so Matthew Fuller. And I said this before, I'm basing it on 8 carries against Akron in high school film and, the eyeball test. He's a physical, freaky, just big for a kid that young. Runs hard, falls forward, gets positive yards fast enough. When you envision, down the road, Howell and Fuller as your 2 backs, it's a little bit exciting. I'll tell you. Now, do I need to see more? Yeah. So I'm going to the spring game. One of the big things I want to watch is these backs carry the football. Although Dontavius Braswell carried it pretty good in the last spring game, and I thought, well, hey, he's coming on and could help, and he didn't play it down. But Matt Fuller, played for Jabo Shaw, Connor Shaw's brother in South Georgia. Great senior year. I mean, senior riser is he epitomizes that. The Gamecocks got him committed early. Powerful runner, downhill guy, has a little wiggle to him, enough speed. Just a freaky athlete. So, what will they do? I haven't heard quite as much buzz about him as of course Faison, because anytime you get somebody new, that's all a lot of people talk about, myself included, because you like the shiny new thing. And then Howell played more this year than Fuller and showed a lot of promise. But and Shane Beamer mentioned before the bowl Fuller could get some play. He did not, unfortunately. But you're also losing Juju McDowell, and Juju, they would work him into the mix, and so he's playing snaps. So you're really losing. You're starting running back. They got a lot of carries, and then a guy in Juju McDowell that they would work in at running back at times, and he's gone too. So somebody's got to kind of get those carries and those snaps as well. And I think in the bowl, had Juju not been there and they not tried to use him, Fuller probably would have gotten some snaps. It's hard to play three sometimes. But Fuller is certainly capable. I would consider him, if you're making a list of dark horse candidates to emerge in the spring, I would definitely put him on that list. Like I said, tree trunk legs, powerful back, strong player, really good. Now, as far as anyone else, it'll probably be walk-ons. I don't know yet what they're going to do with Jaquel Holloman, who's from Blackville, South Carolina, who could play running back or play linebacker. That's to be determined. Certainly a talented athlete. Ideally, you want five in the backfield, because you look and see what happens. Sometimes, not all the time, but sometimes you look and see what happens, and you get deep. 2011 was a year like that. I mean, look at Clemson this year. They had to move Adam Randall before the playoff game, which worked out pretty well. Adam Randall, man, found a home, right? Myrtle Beach player that was a receiver, played running back for Clemson and moved over there. So who knows? But yeah, I mean, they got thin in a hurry, and that's Clemson, and they've been recruiting in the top 10 for a long time and won championships. So it can get iffy. I mean, I think Georgia kind of went through that this year too, which sounds weird to say. So I think you want five. Four, you can get by with four. What you don't want to have is a situation like 03 or 23 here where, okay, so on paper, you're counting on a guy that came from Newberry, which I knew that guy I knew Mario Anderson was going to be good, and everybody in the program knew it too. So I don't think the fact that he went to Newberry means anything. He rushed for almost 850 yards in the SEC behind no offensive line. Really good back. Okay, went to Memphis and rushed for over 1,000 this year. So you had Mario, but behind him, you're counting on Dakereon Joyner. Now, a lot of us felt like Joyner's best position may be running back, for a long time, and somebody finally made the move. Unfortunately, Dakereon got bigger, and it took some of his quickness away. He never seemed super comfortable running from the backfield. And then you had Juju McDowell and Dontavius Braswell. Juju goes out, breaks his collarbone. Dakereon had nagging injuries. And so by the time he got to the Clemson game, it was just Mario and whoever else. And that was tough. I mean, and it was like that just about the whole year, because you can't really count Juju McDowell as a part of your mainstream running back depth, in my opinion. I think he's a guy that you use in a lot of different ways. I don't know that the staff agreed with me ever on that, because they didn't. They just kind of rotated him in. But you can't really count on him doing it, and it's just like that North Carolina game. You had Joyner and McDowell in there. Juju made some plays. Joyner scored a touchdown, but it was tough. Mario Anderson probably should have been playing, just to be 100% honest there. But Carolina's got a new running backs coach now, and I think he did a fantastic job this season with the rotation and all that good stuff. And we'll see what happens this year. But Carolina's got 4, maybe 5, depending on Hallman. I don't know who they've got walk-on wise. I think they've got some walk-ons, but walk-ons are a different subject as far as with the roster limits and things like that this year. So who do you think will win in the comments section? Give me your take. Who's winning the running backs job? Like I said, I would probably put my money on Howell. That's my opinion, but I think honestly, it could be any of the 4. Adaway, Faison, Howell, Fuller. Obviously, I say obviously too much. I do think, how about that, that Fuller probably has the longest, just because he didn't play a lot last year. He's the most inexperienced. He probably has the longest way to go, as far as like how much improvement does he have to make? How much better does he have to be the starter? But I don't think it's impossible, as far as, winning the job. So all 4 are in the mix. And can they use 4? We'll wrap up here effectively. That's hard. I mean, I've never seen, at Carolina, the only other time I can remember them going with 4, and different coaches have different philosophies. Some just want to go with 2, and the third guy may get in every now and then. Some go with 1, and then they're like, well, the next guy will come in some. That was kind of what we saw last year. You'd throw Rocket out for most of it. You'd spell him and stuff with Adaway, and then that was kind of it. But you look at it, some will go with 4. And the last time I can remember Carolina even going with a bunch of different backs was 04 with Holtz. You had Summers, you had Boyd, you had Dacus Turman. I think, Andrea Galls was it running back maybe? There were like 4 or 5, and South Carolina went up to Vandy for the season opener. Jay Cutler was the quarterback for Vanderbilt at the time. And everybody's, talking smack. This has happened 3 times. South Carolina's gone to Vandy for the opener, and all of Vandy Nation, all 34 of them, is smack talking out the wazoo that Vandy's going to beat poor old South Carolina. Maybe they didn't so much in 2012 when Carolina had a loaded team coming back, but they had James Franklin. But, so this happened 3 times, 2004, 2012, and 2016. Carolina goes to Vandy to open the season. I think most were on Thursday nights. This one in 04 was on a Saturday. And I remember it's the first time I'd ever been in Nashville in my life. Me and some buddies, I was living in Gainesville, Georgia. We drove up through the night, tailgated the next morning at Vandy in the morning after no sleep. And the Gamecocks were playing. So Lou Holtz in that game rotated all of the backs. He just kept shuffling them in and out, and they all were pretty effective in the game. And Carolina whipped the snot out of Vandy, 31-6. Jamacia Jackson had a long pick 6 in that one. Really good win in 04. My buddy John Strickland, of course, was on that team. I mean, Carolina's lined up and ran it up their bahunkuses. That's the last time I can remember them doing it. I mean, in 17, in the Muschamp era, Bobby Bentley was the running backs coach, and then Thomas Brown. They would play 4 over the course of a season, but they would have to because guys kept getting hurt. They didn't have a 4-man rotation per se. So, have I seen them use 4 effectively through the years? That would be the last time. That was 21 years ago. Now, I have seen a team in the SEC do it. In the Georgia, 2 of them. In 17, Bama, Najee Harris, I think, was the 4th team back, and I'm at the national championship game. And they're running guys. I mean, Bama was just loaded at running back. And all of a sudden, here comes Najee Harris. He may have been 3rd team. And he hadn't gotten a lot of carries all year. In the national championship game, they start giving him the ball. Boom, boom, just running, raking off yardage. As Alabama came back to tie it and ultimately won because they substituted their backup quarterback Tua in there, and he threw a pretty well-known touchdown pass to I believe the future Heisman Trophy winner, Smith. who was a freshman in that game. I saw Bama do it then, and Bama was really good at playing 2, 3 backs a game under Saban. And then the most masterful one has to be when Todd Monken was coaching at Georgia, those 2 years. And they had 4 guys that were all kind of, I mean, Zamir White, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. They all were different, like strength and weaknesses wise, but they were close enough to where you couldn't. And Todd Monken, as a play caller, did a great job doing this, uh, to where it's like, you know, he didn't tip his hand because what you don't want to do is when you bring in running back B, you know, everybody, the defense is like, oh, he's coming in. They're going to throw a swing pass. You know, they're not going to run it up the middle. You know, you want to always present the defense with a buffet, if you will, of options so they can't guess. You know, you're not going to just bring them steak and potatoes. You know, you want to put out the corn on the cob, the fried okra, the pork. Actually, hold on. Eliminate the sides. We're not talking about sides because sides, you know, you just kind of pick your sides, right? We're just going to talk entrees. You want at least 4 or 5 entrees out there, and they're all good, and you want to make it hard. They got to pick one. Which one's the right one? Because they all look good, right? But one of them is tasty and a award-winning piece of meat or whatever if you're a vegetarian, whatever dish, and the rest of them taste like dog crap. So you want to trick them into picking the dog crap, and you don't want to make it easy. Like you don't want a little speck of what looks to be fudge but is turning green. That's kind of gross, right? In the morning, on one of the dishes. You know, you want to make it all look good. And I've rarely seen a play caller do that like Todd Monken did at Georgia those 2 years. They were all effective. You know, that offense, I think about that Georgia offense sometimes it's different than what Mike Bobo runs there now. It was Ben Briner called it the death machine offense, you know, because they did a lot of, it's not like old school Georgia or Bobo where they line up in the eye and just run it at you. It was weird, but they use those backs great. So it has been done before. Well, Mike Shula and Marquel Blackwell and all those guys find out a way to run all 4. I doubt it. Maybe they don't need to. Maybe they don't want to. Maybe there's a guy that's not good enough. Who knows? But I do think that this is going to be a heck of a competition. I do think all 4 can help the team this year, whether that's special teams or whatever. And I do think all 4 are capable. I think it's a good spot. I think in 2026, obviously, South Carolina's after a back or 2 in that class. Carson Baker from Georgia appears to be the one that I would say is tops on the board, but they've got plenty of other ones plenty of other irons in the fire as well. Okay, hope you've enjoyed this running back conversation here on Coffee with JC Shurburtt. Appreciate everybody that has given this a chance and listened to it. Numbers are really good. We have a JC and Morgan. I repeat, we have a JC and Morgan coming up at 9 o'clock Eastern. We're going to stream that live. Then Inside the Gamecocks, the morning show. And then Inside the Gamecocks, the show. And then I've got an hour coming up here in 25 minutes on 107.5 The Game in Columbia. By the time you check this out, I probably will have already done it. But anyway, JC Shurburtt signing off from Coffee. Thanks for listening, everybody. Have a wonderful Tuesday. And tell me why Tuesday's not, if you ranked them, the number 7 day out of the week. Take care, everybody.